The mic from Karen.
All right. Yeah, the first slide that I'll put up, well, the first is the video.
Yes.
And then the next slide are the interns. And then I will tell you when to put the first picture up. I'll say picture number one.
There we
and
go.
then I'll turn to you and say picture number two. Picture number two is going to be almost at the very end. It's going to be almost at the very end. Okay.
Of your
Of my
section.
talk, yeah.
Perfect.
My talk, yeah. Well, if I could have your attention for a second, while we're waiting to officially start this company meeting, I'd like to ask a special favor of those of you here. Someone has stolen, misappropriated Neil's microphone. And I know there are many of you that would like to have done that. But somebody has misappropriated his microphone, and they're looking for it right now. So if anybody wants to confess up and say where they hid it, it would be very helpful. We still have a few folks coming down. Neil, have they found your microphone yet?
It's on its way down.
Did- Can Neil, whose desk did you find it in?
Cody switches teams and chaos ensues. You have to tell a joke.
All right. I'm going to, in a minute, I'm going to recount some of my early days as a youth. So I'll tell you a story that I heard a long time ago. At this college, all the fraternity and sorority girls got together, decided they were going to go drinking at this bar in the town next to where the university was. So they loaded up all the cars and they decided they're going to drive over there. And everybody goes in, and Fred, who runs the place, calls up the sheriff. Mike, all those college kids over here, they're all drinking and everything else. He says, you need to come over here and arrest them all. They're all going to be drunk. You just got to arrest them all. And so Mike goes over, and the sheriff, and sits there and waits for them to start coming out. And they all come out at the same time. And there's this one most obnoxious person who's just hooting and hollering, barely able to stand up, staggering around. And he's wishing everybody goodbye, patting them on the back, sending them off. And Mike, the sheriff, goes, that's the guy I'm getting him. So he waits, and sure enough, finally, he gets in his car and drives down the highway, and the sheriff turns on the blue lights and pulls him over. And this very proper young man gets out and says, yes, sir, Mr. Officer, how can I help you? and the sheriff goes, wait a minute, who are you? He goes, I am the DD. And he goes, wait a minute. The designated driver? There's nobody else in your car. How can you be the designated driver? And he goes, no, sir, I'm the designated decoy. All right. Getting together like this is important. We are one company. I appreciate all of you that have remote in, and wish I could see all of you personally. I know and hope that you can all see what's happening here. But it is important for us, as we begin to expand geographically, to think of us ourselves as one company with one mission and one purpose, and all sort of pulling for each other. So it is important that 4 or 5 times a year we get together like this and celebrate the fact that we are one company. And there are new people that come into this company from time to time. So what we like to do is offer to anyone who's joined us since our last meeting to have a chance to introduce themselves to everybody else at the company. Those that are remote are given an opportunity to submit a video. So I would first like to ask the folks in the booth to put Sean's video up. Sean is our new Northwest sales representative. He's based in Portland, Oregon. You know, we have a hub in the Northwest now, as well as a hub in Chicago and a hub in the Northeast. And I've gotten to know Sean a little bit, and he's going to be taking the MagMutual message and the MagMutual product to the Northwest part of the country. So if we could see his introduction video. You got that set to run?
Hi, my name is Sean Shumar, and I'm the Regional Vice President of the Northwest Region.
Oscar nomination right there.
He's in sales, but a man of few words. Well, when you see Sean, tell him we'd like to know more about him sometime. But what I like to do now is invite down 6 of our new members who hopefully are here and feel comfortable coming down and sharing a little bit more than Sean did about themselves. So 3 associate developers, Chris and Devin and Megan, would you come on down front? And Mark, who I got to meet briefly yesterday, Mercedes, and Jada is not even an official member yet. Jada, are you here? Oh, good. Well, she is so eager to be a member, she's not even an official member, but she's actually here today, Jada, so welcome. So what we do at this situation is embarrass each one of these people by asking them to tell us who they are, so when we see them walking around, we know who you are, and a little bit about where you're working, and maybe an interesting fact or two about you that we might be interested in. We don't ask for your most embarrassing moment in your entire life. We used to do that, and it didn't go well. So I will turn it over, and would you introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Chris Regan. I'm new associate developer. I'm a little higher, but I'm actually still part-time until I finish my master's degree come the May of spring 2020. So if you see me around, I'm only working like 20 hours a week, so you might just see me pop in. And I'm originally, I grew up in Georgia for the most part, but I was born in Cincinnati. Yeah. And I come from a more business-oriented family, so technology is a trade, not necessarily nurture. But other than that, here's Devin.
So I'm Devin Odron. Santa Claus right there is my dad. I'm an associate developer. I'm working with I have to work with this hooligan Rick over here, working on the iCentra, and then I'm also working on the Magnify project and with our automation, our QA group. So I'm kind of here, there, and everywhere.
Hey everyone, I'm Megan McClimate. I'm a new associate developer. I work with the BI team mostly. I do the bureau reporting. I'm obsessed with cats.
I got nothing to. Mark Guzzi, I came on as a claims examiner. I'll be working out of my home remotely in Richmond, Virginia, the center of my universe. I'm a CPCU. I've been doing professional liability with TDC for about 18 years before coming on board here. I'm looking forward to getting to know you. Personally, I'm an endurance athlete. I'm an ultra marathoner, a road cyclist, a board member of the Richmond Road Runners Club, one of the 5 largest running clubs in the United States, and promote outdoor physical activity. Anyway, thank you for having me.
Hi, I'm Mercedes Presley. I am going to be doing, I'm going to be working with Marcia in claims for operation processing specialist. I'm new to the med-mal part, but I'm excited to learn everything. And I played volleyball for 8 years until I got old and broken. Now I coach, so those who can't do teach. We're number 2 in the nation for travel volleyball. Thank you. And I'm obsessed with owls, so.
Hello, I've seen some of you beautiful faces. So I'm Jada Johnson, and I actually work with Marcia Washington. I do a bit of everything, claims, operations. I've been here for 2 months. I have enjoyed every one of you, so thank you for speaking and saying hello and welcome me in. A fun fact is I love to fish, so I wake up at 5 in the morning, go to Lake Lanier, and also go to the mountains and fish in the morning on Saturday. So.
Thank you very much. The other thing that we do here in terms of, I think, bringing in energy is to create a summer intern program. Those of you that have children or other relatives that are at that college age and you want to expose them to what I believe is a very positive corporate environment here at MagMutual while they're still in their educational phase, it's open to anybody. We give preference to the people who work here and the people they recommend, but it's not only those. But we have a group of 8 summer interns this year. One of them is not with us today, but I think the other 7 are. And I've put their names up here. And if you were here today, would you come down front so we can see you and get a chance to know you? So I asked the question of several of the older members of this company, including one of yours, father, whether coming down here like this at your stage in your professional development would be too much of a hardship for you. And the idea was it would be a learning experience. So I hope I haven't embarrassed you too much. There is no such thing as a right or wrong answer, but I will ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit what you'll be doing this summer and a little bit maybe of what you're doing when you finish working here.
Okay. Hi, I'm Nicole Radak, and I'm working in underwriting, and I study at UGA right now. My major is accounting and international business with a focus in Spanish. So.
And your dad worked here a long time ago, didn't
Yes, he was in IT, Jeff Radak.
Hi, I'm Olivia Bono. I'll be working in actuary. I go to University of South Carolina, and I'm from Suffolk, Virginia. And if you know my dad, he's Dr. Mike Bono. That's it.
I'm Zara Anwar. I'll be in Treasury, and I just graduated, and I'll be attending Georgia State in the fall. And Naveed is my dad.
Hi, I'm Anish Rangan, and I'm going to be working in IT. I am a second year, or coming to second year student at Mercer University. Double majoring in finance and information systems, and I have no family here. So,
Do we need to adopt you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Faisal. I'm an IT major at Kennesaw State University, and I'm working with IT.
I'm Omar Baziri. I work in IT. I'm a rising senior in Roswell High School, and that's my mother right over there, Alex. And so, yeah. I guess I'll give this back.
Well, thank you very much. And while you're here, ask as many questions as you can, because I learned when I was in my medical training that sometimes the best learning experience for me were when the students asked me questions that I had not thought about before. Why do you do this? Is there an easier way to do it? This doesn't make any sense. And I encourage you, the more questions you ask, the better you'll learn and the better we'll be. So I encourage you to do that. Thanks very much for being here. Now, at these quarterly meetings, Neil gives you an update on the company. And before I turn, have they found your mic? Yeah, they found his microphone. Before I turn his microphone on, I guess is the best way to put it, I want to share a few perspectives from my level and the board level, and hopefully say something that means something to you. Those of you who have been here for a while realize that, particularly during football season, I will stand up sometimes and want to compare MagMutual to the Georgia Bulldogs football team, or the Clemson Tigers football game, or one of my favorites, the Alabama football team. And why do I do that? I do that for two reasons. I do that because their objective is to be the best college football team in the country. They start every year with that objective. And the players on that team go to those schools because they want to play on a team that could be, at some point in time, considered the best. That's football. It is not football season. So I want to point out to you that it is baseball season. And those of you that are baseball fans might want to know that this weekend, the SEC championship baseball team was determined, and it's Vanderbilt University. So we're talking baseball right now, not football. It's less than 100 days till football, but I've got a little days I can talk about baseball. And you know that Vanderbilt's sort of my team. But the point is that if you're a baseball player in Atlanta and you want to play on a championship, possible national championship baseball team, you look for a team like Vanderbilt because they won 4 years ago, came in second 5 years ago. Every year they start the season with their goal of being the best baseball team in the country. If you're a lacrosse player, like Bill's sons, you may want to consider Virginia. Virginia won the National Lacrosse Championship this weekend. The point is that players that want to be the best at what they do seek out teams that want to be the best they can be. And that relationship, I think, is important, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. I'm going to use my personal experience for what it's worth. I didn't play on any state championship baseball teams, although I wanted to. Would you put the first slide up for me? This is the team that I played on, or in proper sense, ran on when I was in high school. This is 51 years ago. I know you have no trouble picking out which one is me because I haven't changed a bit in 51 years. But this is the Dykes High School, which is a public high school here in Atlanta. And this was me over here. No difference, right? The reason I'm in this picture is because the spring before this was taken in the fall of '68. For the third spring in a row, I had been cut from the baseball tryouts at my high school. I grew up playing baseball, but I was average. And I admit it, at the time I didn't want to. We had a very, very good baseball team, and I just was not able each year. Twice the coach came to me and said, "You were the next guy in line, try out next year." Well, and so it just never worked out. And then that spring when I got cut from baseball, I just couldn't face going home every day. So the only thing available was track in the spring. So I went to the track coach, and he put me on the long distance team. And I started with running the mile and the 2 mile, and I learned something. I learned something about myself. I learned that God had given me the ability to run much better than he gave me the ability to hit a baseball. And I learned that if I did not quit, and when I got tired, not let the feeling of being tired determine whether I should keep going or not, then I could do very well at running. You got to remember, in 1968, running was not a very exciting activity. Mike knows this. If you went into a sporting goods store in 1968 and asked for running shoes, the only thing they had were the track spikes that you used on a track, and they were all cinder tracks in those days. You probably don't know what cinder is. There was no such thing as a road running shoe. In 1968, towards the end of the year, Adidas came out with the first official road running shoe. They called it the Road Runner. Up until that time, there was no such thing as a shoe that was designed specifically to run on the roads because nobody did it. It just didn't happen in those days. A guy named Ken Cooper wrote a book in '68 called Aerobics, and he was the first one to try to prove in a scientific way that continuous activity was good for your health. Up until that time, the medicine profession didn't even recommend activity such as this as a positive to help keep you healthy. So this is 1968. I'm from Atlanta. My grandfather was a big tennis player in Atlanta, and his doctor told him at the age of 37 that he had to give up tennis because it was bad for him. All that activity was bad for him. And he was seeing one of the most prominent physicians in Atlanta when he told him that. So 68, when I was a runner, it wasn't like that's the way you attract the girls in high school. It was not a very exciting thing to do. But I did discover that I was good at it. And it was something that helped me feel much better about myself being good at that sort of situation. Cross country in those days was an interesting sport, and it is a team sport. I'm going to explain that to you. You might think of it as an individual sport, but it's a team sport. The cross country meets in the fall, we would run against other schools in the Atlanta public system. And the way they keep score in cross country, and those of you that may have been exposed to it or children, the top 5 runners get a position. If you finish first in the race, you get a number 1 because you finished first. If you finished 10th, you get a 10. If you finished 20th, you get a 20. And you add up the top 5 runners on your team, you add up those points, and the team with the lowest points win. It's like golf. You want to have the lowest points. So obviously it is a team sport. When I started running in the spring, the other 4 up there had been running for quite a while, and they took me under my wing and helped me understand a little bit about running, and they kept telling me how important I was. I didn't feel like I was important. They were all much better than I was. And then the fall came, and we started running the meets. It was, in those days, it was a course. It was about 2.1 miles. And they would line you up at the starting line, and you were going to shoot, and each team had a chute. And the number 1 runner was right at the starting line, and the number 2 runner on that team was right behind the number 3, number 4, number 5. So you're lined up like this, and they would shoot the gun, and everybody would go at the same time. But you'd put theoretically the fastest guys at the front, and you would line up according to your sort of order. And I was always number 5. I was the 5 guy. And I would look to the guy next to me because we were running against another high school. In those days, they usually had to go grab somebody off the cheerleading squad because nobody was really interested in running those days. And I was saying to him, all I got to do is beat the guy next to me. If I have a lower number than him, this team's going to be okay. And in those days, that wasn't hard to do. They sometimes would show up in tennis shoes that looked like they were, army boots, and you can't run in those. But my teammates kept telling me how important it was for me to keep trying. And our goal that year was to be the best cross-country team in the state. And after we finished all the city meets, we went to the city championship, and that wasn't a problem because we'd beaten all those teams. And I'm standing there, and now there are more people I'm competing against, not just one team. And, of course, we win the city. But then we go to the regional meet. And the regional meet, a lot more teams, the region being the metropolitan Atlanta region. And all of a sudden, there are a lot more. It's not just 2 teams. All of a sudden, there are now 60 or 70 runners. And so you run the risk of not just being number 10, you run the risk of being number 60. And that's a big number to add to your team. And so all of a sudden, I began to realize how important the 5th man was. And then we won the regional meet. And then we had to go to the state meet, and the state meet was really tough. We had the private schools who had running programs since they were younger. We had a number of schools that had a much more developed running program than we did. And we get to the state meet, and we run. It was a Saturday, middle of November. It was 36 degrees, and it was raining. It was miserable. There wouldn't have been any spectators anyway, but the weather made sure there were no spectators. And we ran the meet, and we won. And it was a successful season for us. But what I want to tell you is that my teammates had gotten me ready for that. They had helped me during the entire season because they'd been there before. They knew what it was going to take. In that last meet, our number one runner, Gary, right there in the middle, he finished number one in the state. He got 1 point. He was really, really good. If he had finished 15 seconds slower, he would have come in third. That would have been a big personal loss for Gary because he wanted to be the best runner in the state. But it would have only cost the team 2 points. I finished way back, not way, way back, but way, way back. And if I had finished 15 seconds slower, it would have cost the team almost 20 points. And we only won by about 6 or 8 points. So when I'm running the race, I'm not aware of the fact that ultimately the whole race is going to depend on me. I was just aware of the fact that as the fifth man, the rest of the team was depending on me. And that was a critical lesson I learned at that point in time. I learned that being good at something was sort of in my DNA, and I think it's most of your DNA. If I had pursued baseball, I don't think I'd ever been nearly that good at it. I learned that being around people who are better at what I want to do makes me better. And I learned that setting a goal of being the best is an admirable goal. Even if we hadn't made it, it drove us all season to be better and better and better at what we did. So why is this important to MagMutual? Besides the fact that I just had my 50th high school reunion, and I was thinking about all this with these gentlemen, I'm also thinking about MagMutual all the time and our 3-year strategic plan. And Neil's going to talk more about that. But we've set quite a goal for ourselves this year in the plan in the next 3 years. We have asked ourselves to be the best evaluators, the best mitigators, although that's not actually a word, you know that, and managers of medical liability. That's not good. That's not better than last year. That's the best. And that's quite a goal. But I think it's a goal that we can and should pursue at MagMutual. And I'm excited about it. Well, how do we define the best? We define the best as, are we better able at meeting our precepts than anybody else in the business? Do we take better care of our policy owners than anybody else? Do we have a better product than anybody else? Are we better able at managing the environment that the policy owners work in than anybody else? And are we better stewards of their money than anybody else? That's how we define best. And you know what? We don't say best is the biggest. We don't say best is the one that's growing the most. But guess what happens? If you are the best, things like growth and things like being able to get bigger and bigger and bigger happen as a secondary effect to being the best. So we strive to be the best. And it's a very admirable thing to look at. So why is it that MagMutual and my 1968 cross-country team have something in common? I think there are a lot of people in this company that are like me. Sometimes you wonder, you're just the fifth man or the fifth woman. What difference do I make? I want to tell you that this is a team just like my cross-country team. If you saw that race, you'd see Gary out front and you think he did a really, really good job. But ultimately, the success of our team depended on Gary, but it depended much more on the fourth and fifth person in that race than it did on Gary's situation. Many of you are like that here. Our success is the sum total of everybody's efforts. And if we're all going to get behind being the best, everybody has to be able to do that. Second thing, how it relates to it is the fact that Neil's going to talk to you about this in a minute. How did I go from somebody who couldn't run to somebody who could compete at this level. One, I was hanging around with people that were really good, but they also told me I had to change. Had to change the way I ran. I thought I ran fine. But if you think about it, and I didn't at the time, when you run in those days, you had a long stride. If you run a mile, you're going to take about 1,000 strides. And we were running 2 miles, that's 2,000 strides. I'll tell you, if you bounce at all, if you raise your body even 3 or 4 inches over a period of 2,000 strides, that's 50 flights of stairs. That is energy that is wasted because you don't get credit for going up, you only get credit for going horizontal. So they taught me how to quit using muscles that were raising me up because they were unnecessary. They taught me how to run in a very, very flat, with my head and my shoulders at the same level, and to transfer that extra energy to a horizontal force and not a vertical force. And I did it by them explaining, but then I did it because being the fifth man, I'm always following them. I get to watch the other 4 of them do it. But Neil's going to talk to you about some changes we have going on here at MagMutual. But I think the other relationship to MagMutual is we have to change. We have to figure out a way to do what we want to do, become the best, and we have to become efficient and effective at it. Things that don't make a difference, we have to quit doing. And things we do, we have to do more efficiently and decide what it is we can do more effectively. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about that. Change is not easy. Certainly when you're tired running, you want to just slip back into the most comfortable place you can find. But you got to force yourself to take those changes and work with them, and eventually you get to a point where you're as flat when you run as the 4 people you're following. So, why am I saying this today? One, I didn't know what else to say, so I figured I'd talk about this. But I think we're at a time at MagMutual where not only have we declared that we're the best, we're also up against some headwinds. We're expanding. We're going from the city meets to the regional meets to the state meets. In our case, we're going from the state to the region and eventually to the national. The competition is going to get tougher, and we have to be prepared for that. And that really comes back down to everybody here. Those of you who are the 5th person in our MagMutual, you are critical to our ability to be successful in this situation. We're also running into some headwinds internally. The changes I mentioned are not easy. Everybody's going to be asked to do different things for different reasons, and we all have to work together and support one another in this situation. And there are external headwinds. We're trying to hit a moving target. Healthcare is changing. It's a very dynamic space, and our policy owners are in a very dynamic space. So I think it's an exciting time, but it's hopefully a time where you will embrace the idea of being the best at what we can be. There are some rewards to that. You want to put up the next slide? This is, 40 years later, the same 5 people. This was 10 years ago. This was at our 40th reunion. But it's something that I think carries over. At least it has for me, and I think it'll carry for you. If you bring that idea of being the best at MagMutual, it carries over in the rest of your life. Best parent, best spouse, best at what you do. Gary, right here, the lead runner, went to the Air Force Academy. These 5 young men, if you had asked the principal of our school who were the smartest 10 or 15 people in the school, none of us were considered that smart. We did well, don't get me wrong, but we weren't the national merit finalists and everything else. We were not gifted with that sort of innate brilliance that some of our classmates had. But we all learned how to work hard, and we learned how to try to be the best at what we did. He went off to the Air Force Academy, and then after the Air Force Academy, went to medical school at Tulane, and is now a physician in North Carolina. Lenny Franco became an attorney here in Atlanta, a very successful attorney here in Atlanta, and has handled some very high-profile cases. Ron Bierman went to Georgia Tech on a track scholarship, a cross-country scholarship, and ended up getting into the business world, went to Harvard, got an MBA at Harvard, came back to Atlanta and started his own company, which he's trying to sell if anybody's interested. But has done very well. Rick Wilkerson, who was the number 2 runner on the team, and I think in some ways probably could have been number 1. He just didn't quite have the same heart that Gary did. Gary just would never let him pass him. But Rick went off to Tulane on a track cross-country scholarship and competed there for 4 years. Then went to seminary and became a Methodist minister in North Carolina and just retired a couple of years ago. And then I went off to Vanderbilt and gave up running. I was the number 5 runner, but had the spirit of being the best at what I could be. And you've heard me say that when I practiced cardiology, I wanted to be the best that I could be. It carried over to that. So I bring this to you because I think that being the best is not just about making MagMutual the best. I think bringing that attitude to MagMutual helps us, but I think it also helps you personally. So I want to thank you for being a part of this team. You've come to MagMutual, hopefully, the same reason that football players go to Clemson, because they want to play on the best team and they want to be the best they can be. And the way you do that is surround yourself with other people that have the same attitude. I think we have that here now. And I want to thank you for that on behalf of all of our policy owners who you take care of. I just want to thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. We only sell our products to healthcare providers. So what's happening in healthcare ultimately affects everything. So let's just quickly look at this. The light blue dots are US population percentage growth between 75. Okay, Daniel, no more you're on. That's your last one. The next one is active US physician growth, is the dark blue dots. And then the orange one that's going crazy is the amount we spend on healthcare. Okay? So you can see that population has grown between 75 and 2018. Number of doctors has grown disproportionately bigger, and the cost way, way bigger again. So that means there are more people, see more doctors getting more expensive stuff done to them, right? That's basically my profound summary of what's going on in healthcare. I should patent that. It's my engineer should patent that. We think it's patent that. Okay. Also, the people who are getting treated, because population is getting older, tend to be older. So again, the grey bars, this is just in a period, 5-year period. Why back in 2015 census data is not immediate. Okay, so this is, I'm going to fall off that. This is what the latest census data. So you can see, particularly in this band here, the amount of age increase, right? Why is that important from a healthcare point of view? Because a lot of other data, and again, I've condensed it, so you won't see that. Older people, by the time they are getting treated at a later stage of their life, tend to have what they call it in the clinical world comorbidities, i.e. multiple things wrong with them when they see a doctor. Right, Bill? True. Which makes it more complicated and difficult because you're not just managing one thing. By the time you see the person, you're trying to manage multiple things. Make sense to everyone? So patients are not only, there's not only more of them, but they're more complex in their clinical needs. So all this stuff going on is more stuff, more doctors, more expensive stuff, more complicated stuff, older people. Maybe one of the big things, increasing severity. What do we mean by severity? The average cost. Ooh, back to the Henry's experience. Is that good? Have the remote offices had the good fortune of not hearing?
No, they can hear.
Okay. So, average severity, the average amount it takes us to settle a claim, you can see that increasing, right, every year. Everyone see that? So it costs us today on average $410,000 to deal with the same thing it cost us in 2009, $343,000 to deal with. Not good. Okay. Also, what's going on, there's a larger percentage of bigger verdicts. So the dark blue section of this is showing you the percentage of the whole number of settlements that are greater than $1 million. So you saw that just flick back, you saw that 410,000, that's the average, right? It's made up of all these different claims and lawsuits and settlements, and you can see that today, 6.4% of what we do pays over $1 million. And back here, that was 4.8%. That's significant, right? Everyone following that? Another thing that is affecting probably, well, it's definitely affecting the way healthcare is delivered, but probably is having an impact on all the way lawsuits happen, how they happen, and what we pay, is the changing nature of healthcare, right? And this is just a snapshot of MagMutual's policyholder base, okay? Premium. So let's start with 2004. In 2004, just under 40% of our policyholder base were either solo to 3 doctors, right? And just 20% were groups of 25 or more. Today, look at 2018, that 40% has become 30% in the 1 to 3. So that's a big reduction proportionally, right? And now our largest segment of policyholder premium comes from groups of 25 or more. So you can see the consolidation and the business influence on medicine, right? Everyone following that? Here's an even more dramatic slide on all of that. I'm going to start with the headline. These five largest healthcare consolidated groups in the USA, they employ 8%, just between the 5 of them, 8% of all the physicians in the USA. 5 buyers of insurance control 8% of the physicians in the USA. And that was actually, that's about a year old, that data, Brandy. I mean, that'll get up to north of 10% before we blink, okay? And you can see here as well, I'm not going to go into tons of details, but the amount of concentration going on, okay? Everyone following it still. The other big dynamic that's going on in healthcare, and this is just a statement of fact, not a statement of opinion, whether it's good or bad. Physicians, as things become more and more business focused, are less and less the decision makers on business matters, and insurance is certainly a business matter, and a claim is certainly a business matter. So if we look today, number of policies, one decision physician is still quite high because of all those 1 to 3s, right? That's the number of policies. But if you think from a premium perspective, if you look at this graph, so dark blue, 1 physician's making decision, mid-blue, multi-decisions with a physician involved, probably with business people, and light blue, no physician directly involved. 45% of the premium, and therefore the exposure, therefore the number of hospitals and doctors we insure, there's no physician involvement in making a decision relating to the insurance or the consent. Dramatic, right? Really dramatic. And if you would have looked at that 10 years ago, that would almost be unimaginable. Okay. More challenges going on. The plaintiff bar is definitely been gaining on the defense bar when it comes to medical malpractice over this period from 2014 to 2018. So this is sort of nationwide data, 10% improvement for the plaintiff bar in their win ratio. Boo. Okay, so they're gaining on us. They're also winning big. A lot more huge verdicts you're reading about in the newspaper. Unfortunately, one of these is ours, but we'll find our way through it. But there's a lot more big verdicts going on out there. So plaintiffs are winning more often, and they're winning bigger. And they are kicking our butts at sophisticated approach to claims. Defense of malpractice, in my opinion, subjective opinion, nationwide, is still very much a mom and pop industry of small defense firms not relying too much on technology or intellectual property or research, very much relationship, and we kind of fight really hard for you and emotion. And the plaintiff bar, at that same time, is investing tons of money in social media to better predict jury pools, how they're going to react, spend tens of millions of dollars working out how verdicts are going to come out, much better than us at jury selection, and do a lot more work on mock trials. They're not winning more by chance. They're winning more because they're investing more, making more effort, and are moving away from being a mom-and-pop industry themselves into being sophisticated, data-driven businesses. Any of you who've been at MagMutual for a long time will know this is my favorite quote. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We, for years, as an industry, and MagMutual, what was our response to all of those changes? Everything I've just gone through. Nothing. Let's keep doing the same. It's going to get better. We'll just try a bit harder. So the industry's fundamentally changed. The data's fundamentally changed. Our opponents in the plaintiff bar fundamentally changed. And our approach was, we're really comfortable with what we do. It feels good. It feels good. We're going to stick with it. And that's why our results are getting worse and worse and worse and worse on those factors you've seen before, because we were being insane. I'm just telling you, that's what I feel. Okay. So what are we doing differently going forward? I would like to believe we're the first in the country to do this. Who knows? We'll find out. We have got so much data, like crazy amounts of data, that we never fished in. Let me just give a funny example on that. We've tried, say, 2,000 cases, and we've handled 60,000 claims. And if you said to someone in our company, hey, I've got a shoulder dystocia case in DeKalb County, can you please tell me the ideal jury profile that we should hope to get in there? Oh, I don't know, we'll ask the lawyer, who won't use any data and will give us an anecdotal opinion based on the type of people they're used to saying, right? And yet we own all that data. We could actually predict what is a better jury pool, but we didn't do any of that stuff. I'm just giving you an anecdotal example. So here's what we're doing. We're taking all the data we've got. That's why you see a lot of work. I think one of the exciting things is all of this. We've invested in this thing called Magnify. I'll give you a quick explanation of Magnify. Magnify lets us do a narrative search on every single claims record we've ever had and look at it many different ways. So we're taking all that data. We're taking NPDB, which is nationwide data. First thing we're doing was scooping all the data up. Okay. And then we're going to put it through this process. We have created, forget at the moment, a claim comes in, it gets allocated to someone based on where they live and where they sit, and we hope that we're going to get the best outcome. Claims are first going to go to a professional assessment team. Carrie's running that team. There's a lot of clinical input in that team. What are that team going to do? Okay, every claim that come in for the first time in the history of this company is going to be assessed by doctors to say whether the medicine was, and out of 1 to 100, whether it was 0, no, they cut off the wrong leg because they were drunk, or 100, even with hindsight, there's nothing that could have been done different. Bill's heading that up. He will make that determination score himself unless he feels he needs outside further specialist support, because it's an area outside his expertise, and that will be 1, 2, 3, however many people we need. And every single claim, the first question is going to be, how good was the medicine? Okay? The data then tells us that these following factors are what influences your ability to convince the other side that the medicine was a 75 out of 100 or 100 out of 100, right? First question, again, all done in the assessment team. Causation. Yes, they gave the wrong pill, but the patient would have died anyway. So we didn't cause the outcome. Tough one to defend, but it's still a very necessary question. Next one, degree of injury. The data clearly shows, even with the best medicine in the world, if it's a horrific injury of a sympathetic defendant, that makes it hard to get your story across. Make sense? The next one, jurisdiction. Some places are easier than others to try cases. Some places are harder. Next one, how good is our defendant and the experts? They're articulate, they're smart, people are going to like them, they're arrogant, they're horrible, they're going to put people off, right? That has a major difference on your ability to get a story across. Same with the experts, right? Defendant and the expert. Next one, strength of the plaintiff. They're sympathetic, they're really nice, hardworking, mother of 6, hard, really clearly just out for the money, pretending to be in a wheelchair when they haven't even hurt their toenail, easy, right? Everyone following so far? Same with the plaintiff experts. Last one, environmental factors. Hey, I'm defending this hospital, and unfortunately they've been in the press the last 6 months about how they've been double billing all the patients in their community. Difficult. Hey, I'm defending this hospital. They've been in the press about an outreach program they've been doing, running a free clinic. They've got a great reputation in the marketplace, and they employ half the people in the town. Easier. Everyone follow that so far? So what happens? The assessment team will score each of those things. Dependent on the outcome of the score, that will determine what we think an expected optimal outcome is. And that can be anything from, hey, all the data shows we should get rid of this for 0, right the way through to pay the policy limits and run away from this one as quickly as you can. So we will allow all this scoring based on all the data of the 60,000 claims we've had to predict what the expected outcome, the targeted outcome should be. Everyone follow that so far? So by the time a claims rep receives the file, all this work's done. We stop having to ask a lawyer to tell us stuff that we actually should know a lot better and have a lot more data for. And instead of sort of emotion driving a decision, the outcome we're targeting is going to be data supported. And then, here's the key game changer as well, we can take that information, we'll sit down with the lawyer, and what we will say to the lawyer is, hey, this is what we believe based on all of these things. This is what our target outcome is. Can you see anywhere where we've made a wrong assumption? And if not, how are you going to help us achieve that aim? We are never again going to go to a lawyer with an open file and say, tell us what to do. It just doesn't make sense. It's not putting the policyholder first. So we've got all this going on in claims at the moment. It's really exciting. It is a game changer. The theory is sound. We're going to trust it. We're going to let go of the insanity. Just remember Albert Einstein there. And we are going to have the justified belief that we're going to bend the curve backwards. We have to be the first company to say we are not satisfied with modest inflation. We want deflation on our claims. It's achievable. We can do it. We're putting the work in, and that's what's going on in claims. So I've been as quick as I can. Before I go on and do the financials, you can ask me, you can ask Sherry, you can ask Sam, ask questions now, come and see me. Does that sort of make sense to everyone? Sound exciting? Bit better than asking a lawyer what they think we should do, which usually results in, oh, let me run up very large bills and then tell you to settle. So we're going to get away from that and move into this new era. If it doesn't work, I've loved working here. I really have. It'll take about 3 years to find out. Okay. Let's look at the Q1 results really quickly, because I know it's Donna's favorite lunch. It's Jim and Nick's barbecue, so she's gonna rush out. It's good for vegetarians. Okay. You can eat the beans, but then your colleagues aren't too happy. Okay. So we're going to have a quick look at Q1 figures. If you remember, every quarter we have to report. So here's what happened. I'm just going to really quickly. This time last year, 79.8 million in premium. We thought we were going to come in at 73 million because we knew we were going to lose a pile of business. We actually came in at 85 million. Woo! That's good, right? So we're up on premium. That's really good. Losses, if you remember, this loss in LAE incurred, we thought it would be at 56 million. This time last year we were at 56 million. We thought it would be at 58. We're at 65. That's normal. It's not a boo, because as you write more premium, there's always losses associated with it, so it goes up proportionally. So we're okay with that. You can see here this time last year, we thought we'd get this time last year, we got 7.7 million. We thought, well, Nick sandbagged it and said he thinks we'll get 8.8 million of investment income. And if he'd done the calculation right, he would have seen that we get, where's Nick? Is he in here? There he is. That's unfair, Nick, right? It was your skill. He would have seen we got close to 10 million investment income, which was great. Capital gains as well. We took a big capital gain deliberately last year, so that's a little red herring. We thought we'd get 14 million, we got 16 million, which is great. So we thought net income before dividends and tax, we were going to make 18.2 million. We made 23. That's good. That's good. We've given away 33 million in dividends. That's really good. You can clap that one as well. Yeah, that's it. So that's good. which actually means our net income before tax, we are losing money. We always lose money at this time of the year because you have to account for the dividends up front, and then as the premium comes in, we sort of pay ourselves back for the dividend money we've given away. So we run the float. So this means when all said and done, this line here, we thought we'd be in the red, 12.9 million at this point in time. And again, that's because of the 33 million dividends we count up front, and we're actually 7.4 million. Your dad's doing good, Sarah. Yeah, he's doing good. So it's been a good quarter. It's a tough, weird market at the moment. It's transitioning from being a very soft market where prices are always going down to being an erratic, hardening market where prices are really going up in some areas, marginally going up in others, and sort of slightly up in others. So it's a hard market to predict at the moment. Our focus is very much making sure our book is as profitable as it can be so we can keep giving those dividends back. Any questions on the figures? Barbecue time.